Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Repertoire Workouts with Rae. And so in today's episode, we will look at some grade 2 pieces, and we will start with Bartók's Children at Play. I have always found when teaching this piece, although it looks really innocent on the page, there are some surprisingly tricky parts, especially when it comes to coordination, articulation, and technique. So Rae, how do you find this piece?
Well, the biggest problem we have with this piece is that we need different movements in each hand. And so we need to make sure each hand alone understands what it has to do. So in the right hand, we have these 2-note slur movements. So I'd start with a spring off, and then we also need spring offs for each of those 2-note slurs, because the second of the 2-note slur notes is on the beat. So up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And then in the left hand, we have this rotation movement, which needs to go like this. Now, it would be very easy to play it with fingers alone like this. Now, the problem there is that we have a very big accent on the thumb. The thumb's not supported and it's flopping down, and that's exactly what we don't want from a musical point of view. But if we use the rotation movement, so we're going this way and we're rotating to the left, then that movement will create a musical result. And then if we put them together, now if the student has a problem with that coordination, we could use the stop and prepare movement. So we're going to lift that hand but keep this one down. And again, we've got to lift this hand and keep that one down. And so to start with, it's a great idea to use an exaggerated movement and very slowly to learn that. Then when we put it back into the piece, we can reduce that exaggerated movement. And we should have a musical result.
So now we will move on to our second piece, which is called French Old Song by Tchaikovsky. And Rae, I often find when I'm teaching similar pieces that children have trouble holding down that pedal note in the left hand and then still releasing the tension throughout the notes.
Yes, Melody, this is one of the most difficult things that we have to do in playing the piano, is to hold one note down and move our other fingers. And if we think back to those old exercises that were taught so much in the last century, where we were told that our fingers would get more independence if we held down some notes and tried to play the other notes independently. Actually, all that did was to make people stiff. Our fingers don't work well when we're holding a note and lifting another one because we're using opposing muscle groups. So we want to move in the way that's kind to the body. So if we look at our old French song, what we have to do here is to hold down the G and to play the other notes legato. So for at the very beginning of learning this piece, I would go down, up, down, up, down, because it's very much easier if we use the wrist. Now, obviously, you don't want that great big movement because the tendency will be for the D to come out with an accent. So the second step would be then to take down and up as one wrist movement over those 3 notes, and then you can pick up the last note on the way back down towards the B flat. So it goes down and up and down. And that's so much easier than trying to do it all with fingers, which will be working against the body. Right, well, in Fit for Piano, we have an exercise for teaching cantabile where we go down, we're allowing the arm weight to fall into each note like this. Just one note with one movement of the arm. Then what we do is we group those notes in pairs, so we try and retain the same tone whether we play with a downward movement or an upward movement. Down, up, down. And then you take it over a larger group. So that's what we need for this piece here. Now we're going to have to start with a big jump So first of all, I would do the single note cantabile like that, and then I would go down, up, down, up, down, and then I'd take it over 4 notes, down and up and down. And then of course the next thing we have to do is to get those hands balanced. So we don't want the left hand to be louder than the right hand. We want the right hand to be the singing one. So the best game for that I've ever heard is that of talking about the right hand being filled with gold and the left hand being filled with feathers. When you give the child that image, they very often will come back with the right hand singing more than the left hand, and we get an instant balance.
Yeah, that golden hand and feather hand imagery works like a charm. I've done it with most of my students and it makes a huge difference. And I think that concludes our episode for today. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you enjoyed our video, please follow and subscribe and give us a thumbs up and let us know if you want us to cover any specific pieces in the future. We'll see you next time. Bye!